Eagle Splits here in conversation with Funk Cutter tonight. So, hiya, Funk.
Hello, Eagle.
How's it going?
Okay. It's all right. Not bad. Getting over silly colds, and I think we've all got an awful lot more stupid colds that we still would have got on with our lives with, and now we're way laid back because we're not used to it, are we?
No, exactly, especially during lockdown when we're all away from each other. So now we're able to spread each other bugs.
Yeah, like the good old days.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's great that.
I remember Segs from the Ruts and Ruts DC interviewing Spittoon after a gig down at the 12 Bar Club, and all the way through it, Stephen was trying to clear his nose, and I don't think he ever did go out. Yeah, lovely.
Thinking about it.
So you've got a new album out, Anarchistwood. So
yes,
let's go about a little bit of history before we get to the album, though. You started in 2005, I believe.
That's when the first tracks were written. Yeah, we didn't start performing then, but Paul wrote 4 guitar tracks very rapidly within about 10 minutes, recorded them and put them up on the archive on the 22nd of November, and was very excited by what he'd done, and then decided to form a band around that. So that's the music came, and then the people, the band members. But yeah, to begin with, it was him. Definitely.
How easy was it to put a band around them? Did you get the band you wanted?
Well,
or did that develop over time?
It's developed. It's always been developing. I think it's been a work in progress, and maybe that's because you're not ready to start it yet. But I don't see what's the point waiting. You should just get on and be creative and see what you can do. And we got a few people through Gumtree to begin with, and then we decided that the best way of getting people involved in a band is friends of friends. It's word of mouth. It's who you know. Because if you go on Gumtree, there's umpteen people wanting to do some sort of music, but just because they want to do music doesn't mean they want to do the sort of music you're into, or the music that you don't even realize that you're into yet, because there's such a vast array of different styles out there. And I think we can all get a little bit, oh yes, it's going to be like this, and then forget that everyone's into soul and R&B and all sorts of other things. And I'm really into all sorts of music, really. I'm not as pigeonholable as a lot of bands might be, and I'm willing to work with various people. And I think that's been great for adapting to gigs in different places and with different people and different contributors. I love all that. So, but I had to learn it because it was my first proper band, really.
Okay, your first proper band.
Yeah.
So what was you doing before the proper band?
Well, before that, there was it was almost like pre-Anarchistwood band called Camorra, which I was in, and that did one proper full gig with full band and one electronic gig, I think, just with 2 of them, and I hadn't even got to the point where I'd perform live yet. I think we broke up before I did a gig. Right. Before that I was doing the visuals and the usual stuff and getting involved and practicing, but I didn't actually perform in Camorra at all. It all finished.
I've had bands like that. We've practiced and we've sort of knocked it on their head before we've actually done anything because we've got other ideas.
Well, it's all a learning process, isn't it? And I think it's like every gig, every practice, everything you do, every idea you have is just another practice towards the next time. And each time we grow and grow and grow. And eventually we're learning our trade, as I suppose, so to speak, as we continue.
Yeah, I mean, one thing which Activists as my band struggle with, I suppose, not particularly struggle, but we'll because we've diverse interests in music. I mean, I listen to everything. But yeah, and Danny does, who I tend to write most of the songs with. And then after a few years, you start developing the band's sound. but you're still writing songs which don't particularly fit that sound.
Yeah.
Do you have that problem? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Well, one of the songs on the new album, Drain, which we're now starting our sets with this track called Drain. So it's got a trumpet intro. And it's the last track on the first side, on the alpha side of the record. And I wrote the words for it, I think, in 2010. And it's taken until the last, 2 years ago to actually get a tune around it and get it going. And I've got tons and tons of books of poetry, of written stuff, ready to go into a tune that have never been realised. So I think they can bide their time, those words. They can just sit there, can't they? And the same with Paul. He had riffs that he hadn't used that had been in his head since he was 13. And I think there was one on, I think, the first album, actually, and he'd been playing that thing for 20 odd years. And then it comes together. And I guess it's, again, a combination of who you're working with. Sometimes it takes that long before you find the right set of people to do that sound with, or for them to develop your sound. Because I think we all, it's a mutualism, isn't it? We all need each other to progress.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time. Big time. So you do a lot of gigs alongside what would be kind of classified as kind of punk bands.
Yeah.
But with your very diverse sound, I mean, how does that come about? Do you is it intentional to play alongside punk bands, or are you happy to play alongside a soul band or a?
Yeah, I welcome any interaction, really. I like any, as long as it's good. It doesn't matter what genre it's under. It really doesn't matter what it is, or even if it can't be fixed into a pigeonhole. As long as it's a good vibe, as long as you're having fun and it sounds good and people are enjoying themselves, then it doesn't matter what it is. When we first started, we weren't playing in such a punk fraternity, even though we were coming from a very punk background. And I think that our punkness was more to do with our attitude and our expression of individuality, as opposed to liking the certain band that you have to like. And I think that kind of punk is starting to fall away now. There's an awful lot more different bands in what I think is genuinely the punk scene. It's much more opened out, and it's not just, sorry to say, Eagle blokes. That sounds very sexist, but there was an awful lot of that previously, and I think that was just how Western society's been for the past many years, many centuries anyway. So in all environments, in all scenes, things are catching up and things are getting more female driven, queer driven, progressive in ideology. And I think now is the time when we can actually all show ourselves and share in each other's bountiful output. For example, I'm playing on the bill with Rights of Hadder here and there quite a lot, and that is absolutely brilliant. That's one of my favourite bands. So I'm looking forward to playing with them again soon.
Yeah, we're playing with them soon. Well, July we're playing with them next. So that was, they're always fun, and it's just a lovely bunch as well.
Absolutely, they're wonderful people, and it's similar to a lot of the things I'm singing about is all quite harsh and painful and difficult. Some of the things I sing about, and I was having a good conversation with Wasp, and they're doing similar. They're letting their soul out and talking about some really painful experiences. And I think both of us are sometimes in shock that people can hear it and suddenly they're knowing what we're talking about, and it's like, ah! Yep. Especially when it's recorded, because when it's in a gig situation, it's all loud and exciting, and there's visual aspect and there's fabulous musical things going all over the place, like Paul Mabin's bass and his wavy. Hi Paul, I know you love your waving. And Alex's guitaring, and it's just like the whole band is brilliant, and saxophone, all of those different elements are coming in, and this super drum beat in the background holding it all together. But Wasp is yelling all this hysterical, terrible, but really needed to be said stuff, and together it just makes this melange of one of, you know, something that you can't not watch, you can't not listen, and yeah, I really welcome it. And I think we're on a sort of par with that, in that there's the visual element, there's different sounds going in different directions, and having those harmonics, I think it's important. But you were talking about punk bands. I suppose we started getting involved with the anarcho-punk scene back in about 2016, maybe it was, I think, 15, 16. And that was partly because we had the very great honour of accepting a proposal from our drummer, Scarlett Carson, to join the band. We were stuck. We had a drummer. They couldn't commit anymore, and so left. And then we had a gig coming up with Hagar the Womb in East London, which I was very excited about. And Flowers in the Dustbin, I think, also played, yeah. And Gail was putting that together, and Gail said, oh, I said, I really, really, really want to do this gig, Gail, but we haven't got a drummer. And she said, oh, I think I might have somebody for you. And so she suggested Scarlett Carson, and Scarlett came along. We had practice and we hit it off straight away. We just got on so well. I think it was partly the combined love of Carry On films.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so yeah, Scarlett joined, and thought at the time it was only for one gig.
Yeah, that's how I got her both.
Oh, I thought I was just doing one gig. And then it was like, wow, that's great. And so then I guess he introduced us to his other band, which is Bug Central, which is brilliant, who play quite well, not hugely regularly since lockdown, but they are playing gigs, and they're really been going for years. Absolutely brilliant Bug Central band. So then we were in conversation with Oscar from Anthrax. In fact, at that gig that we did with the Hags, when Scarlett first played for us, and we were asked if we wanted to do a split single then with Flowers in the Dustbin on Grow Your Own. And so we said, yeah, let's do it. So that led to doing that single, and then getting on the bill with lots of the anarcho-punk bands that we now do play with a lot, which is wonderful. I think we, again, with the political and social responsibility ideas, that we found, again, the right people to be working with and to do stuff with. But we are different, definitely different to the kind of music that, well, I can't generalise because that's all changing now. There's an awful lot of bands that are popping up, like Barrage Kronos, who are a really interesting band. You should go and see.
There's a lot of great bands out there. I've been given tickets to see Girls in Synthesis on Saturday night.
Oh, wow, they're amazing, aren't they?
I've not seen them yet, so...
Oh, they're so good. And I must say that myself and Stanley Badd, he's been on nearly all of the Anarchistwood albums. He plays trumpet, violin, anything he can get his hands on. And he and I played on the last, not the most recent, Girls in Synthesis album. Or maybe it was the most recent. The last two releases, actually, we played trumpet on.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Yeah. But say there's some really good stuff out there. But he's mentioned the anarcho-punk thing, and for me that was always a lot more interesting than head punk, because the bands were very different and are very different.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I mean. I'm 60 at the end of this year.
Congratulations.
Which is a big number.
Yeah.
But I was really drawn to that, to punk initially, because I mean, I got into punk when I was about 14. But what really drew me was the fact that bands had got something to say, and they were all saying it pretty differently. And then things kind of got uniformed, and I think now punk scene is very, very fertile, because there's a lot of stuff coming from it, which is definitely punk, but people doing their own thing, which I was supposed to have been bloody doing anyway.
Yeah. I think probably in the 80s there was that massive explosion of things is it because of the Conservative government? Is it because of the awful situation the world's in? Is it because we've got more things to say? And when things were not quite as bad, or maybe it's just that we interpreted them not as badly in the 90s, that there wasn't quite so much to complain about, and now we've got an awful lot to try and deal with. I don't know, maybe it's just our own consciousness saying that. Maybe that's because I was a raver in the 90s. Who knows?
Right, yeah. I mean, I think there's always been something to fucking fight against, because I think all governments are oppressive.
I think so.
And,
yes.
I mean, sadly, I'm still shouting the same things, maybe in a different way than I was 30 odd years ago.
Yeah, I get that. It's sad, really sad when you look back on and think, well, that was being said ages ago. Why are we still doing it? I went to an exhibition of Hoppy Hopkins from, I think it's IT magazine, photographer, and I went to that exhibition about 10 years ago, and I remember thinking, this is really sad. This is photographs from the 60s, and it's protesting against war, and protesting against violence against women, and protesting against homophobia and racism and all those things. And I think, oh my goodness, we're still got, things are better in some ways, but they're much worse in other ways. It's almost like we know that we shouldn't do it, and now people do it anyway, even though the global consensus is, oh no, you're not supposed to be homophobic, racist, transphobic, but they're still doing it. So what's going on? And it's that people are still starting wars. There's still this huge aggression going on, and people saying, F that, I don't care, I'm just still going to invade your country. What is that? Is that a midlife crisis of Putin's? I'm not sure. I don't see why he's doing it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, but I guess war never does. Yeah, for me, it's like some rich guy decides he wants to invade somewhere and sends the poor people in to fucking do it.
Yeah. Is it because he couldn't get it up last night and he wants to impress his newest model wife? I don't know.
I think he's got problems with his sexuality, actually. If you look at him bare-chested on the back of a horse, no wonder he's a gay icon.
Yeah.
YMCA. Exactly. The guy's got some fucking therapy to do, I think. Yeah, he needs to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Chiasmata.
Chiasmata.
Chiasmata, which means?
Okay, so it's to do with biology, and it's to do with cell replication, and in asexual reproduction, which is when things effectively clone themselves, like grass grows asexually, so it all looks the same, doesn't it? And strawberry plants, although they can grow, they can reproduce sexually, they can also do asexual budding, having little planters putting out, or imagine spider plants, they put out a little root and then another plant grows, and it looks exactly the same. So that's asexual. In sexual reproduction, there's a crossing over of the chromosomes. So imagine you've got a couple of chromosomes. It's hard to do actually on here. The chromosomes, little legs cross over during meiosis, which is this sexual reproduction to make gametes, and bits of the genes swap completely. So this bit will end up over there and that bit will end up over there. So you end up with gametes, which are the sex cells, that's eggs and sperm in humans, that are varied. They're not exactly the same as their parents. And then they combine with another parent's gametes. And so you've got a shuffling of all the genes, which is what leads to massive evolution and differences between us all. And without chiasmata, without the crossing over, then you wouldn't have this huge difference of all of us. We'd all look exactly like our mums or exactly like our dads.
Okay, sadly I do.
Your dad got the same hair.
Yeah, well, he used to have, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because during lockdown, obviously, we did a lot more online stuff as Punk for Homeless. And I'm close up and I look at myself and think, fuck, I look like my dad. But not my dad when he was younger, when my dad was really fucking old.
I can remember one of my daughters, when I had, because I've got quite long hair now, and I usually have, but there was one point when I had it all shaved off and I had it really, really short. And one of my daughters came into my office when I was working in the last school I worked in, and she took a picture of me from the back, and I saw the back of it. I thought, oh my goodness, I look just like my dad, back of my dad's head. So yeah, I get that one.
So this isn't by far your first album, is it? So how far are we along?
Well, we did album number 1, Blessed Are the Cracked, for They Let in the Light, which was a double album. And then album number 2 was Situation is Normal, a collection of lies, hearsay, and what is it? Truths of an Inconvenient Nature. That was second album. And then the third and fourth got a little bit mixed up. But the third one effectively is the Nasty album, which we did with Scarlett Carson actually as drumming on that one. And we also did, because we'd waited so long between Situation is Normal, which came out in 2011, and was it 2011? Yes, it was 2011. And we took so long to get the next set of albums out. It turned into 2 albums. And so we've also got Sign On Mr. Lovely, but we didn't do that on vinyl. So that's only on CD or download. You can get Sign On Mr. Lovely. And that's more, there's a lot of electronic stuff on that. And it's not as in-your-face punk. And there's also a couple of covers in there. So
what covers?
We've got November 22nd on it, which is 1963, which is about the slaying of JFK, John F. Kennedy, in Dallas. And that was written by Destroy All Monsters and performed by Destroy All Monsters. And the singer Niagara Detroit wrote that. And when I had to learn the lyrics and read it and, you know, properly digested it, it was written from a woman's point of view of the lover of the guy that did the shooting. It's like, why did you have to do that? And it's amazing. It's like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. So yeah, it was like a female perspective on this thing that affected everybody in Western society, I guess, and made people feel a lot less safe in the States and changed the course of history, I expect, for Vietnam, for example, because he was anti-war, wasn't he? So, well, much anti-war as a leader can be.
Yeah, and as a head of a superpower can be.
Yeah, and things could have been quite different, couldn't it? So that I absolutely love doing that. And there's also the May Day song, which is not a song in itself, but it's a piece of writing by Peter Lindbaugh, which is about the history of May Day, and it relates not only to pagan festival of May Day, but also for the workers and how it became the Labour Day, and for unionists and also for communism. So it was a really interesting historical piece, which I'd been doing live quite a lot, but we got Johnny Deluxe, our dear friend Johnny, who died sadly in 2017, to read it, and then we interwove the speech. So I did some of it and he did some of it. I think the version with him doing all of it is much better, actually. He's got a great voice. So that is online in various places. I mean, that's on the videos, actually. So that was Sign On Mr. Lovely with a few covers and electronic-y spoken word stuff. And then our 5th album was coming next, and that was what we were working towards, to be Chiasmata. And while we were recording it, Candy Paul said, I want this to be the 8th album. This should be 8th. And so we said, okay, because we also released the 4th album before the 3rd album at the suggestion of our previous bassist, Campo. So we thought, okay, let's not be linear. That's really boring. So this is effectively the 8th album, Chiasmata. And that means we've got to do 5, 6, and 7 at some point, because Candy always said that Anarchistwood is an 8-album project and then it's over. And I think that's partly why I want to make this the 8th album, because in certain ways, in a sort of on this planet way, it is over for Candy, but never stop influencing what we're doing. So
excellent. And Candy designed the art sleeve, the sleeve as well, which is,
well, yeah, the cover art is called For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I absolutely love this piece of art. He did so much art, constantly doing collage art for hours and hours and hours. And you can see there in the corner is his mum, as Lorna. Hello, Dottie Ma. And written next to it in runes in Elder Ferdark is Briganti Rising, because he always considered himself to be as obviously a northerner, and the Brigantes were that tribe. So Briganti Rising is what he's put in there. And there's also a little justice for Grenfell floating about down there, as well as lots of characters from all over the world. He's very into, well, he started doing a degree in anthropology years ago, but he had to stop due to mental health issues. And so he was really focused on different types of people from all over the world and their way of making music and art. And I think, that very much relates to punk, doesn't it? Because it's about looking at all the differences between us and finding the joy and the beauty in those, and expanding your mind. So, yeah.
Well, definitely. I mean, punks were always plagiarists.
Yeah.
We took our Mohicans from different tribes. We took our brothel creepers for teddy boys.
Yeah.
Scooters from mobs. We were just fucking. We were like crows pecking away, fucking through everything and taking what we wanted. Magpies, maybe.
Yeah, magpies. But then I think that's good, and I do have issues with this appropriation of culture argument, and I agree that it can go too far. But actually, we're all from Africa in the first place. We've all come from the same hereditary path. And so I don't see why we can't borrow and mix and match. And otherwise, what is culture? There's no changeover. You've got to have some sort of mixing. Otherwise, it's incredibly boring. Exactly. And then you're back at your monoculture again, which is awful. So
I totally agree. I mean, I think some people actually sort of try to, from a lefty perspective, try to govern what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, if you look at the early punk days, with the Clash and knocking around with reggae, with Rasta guys and interchanging their music. It was like, this is for us to fucking share.
Yeah.
To appreciate.
Yeah, that's it. It's honouring, isn't it? A lot of it. It's saying that stuff's wicked. Let's do a bit more of that and bring it to the fore. And then that educates people, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, if people can be educated, I think they need fucking deprogramming first. I think they need deprogramming first a lot of the time. Yeah,
deprogramming is good. I often think that maybe it's easy for me to say these things because I do come from a very mixed heritage. Whenever I get those questionnaires that say, what's your, what are you, and I always write Celtic Judaic as my race, whatever. But we're all human race, but that background thing, because my father was Jewish and my mother was Irish and Welsh and part French as well. So I've got this huge mixture of nationalities floating around in the background of my head, and having lived in different countries, I think that also opened my eyes that we're not all just living in this one little village and we're all like that. So I had to deal with 10 different schools and meeting 10 different sets of classmates over my years, and that was really tiresome and difficult for me as a child, but I think it's made me more adaptable to different ways of living now. And also having children that have got different backgrounds as well. Several of my children are of colour, as we say these days. Yeah. So, I have in my life mixed and matched and have different, because I don't see that we're different. I just think whatever you're with, the people that you're with and you're attracted to and that you work with, it's a connection of your mind. It's not about what they look like and what their cultural background is. It's the way they think for me. And I think that's the most important, to relate to that side of people, not looking, oh, look, they've got that colour skin or those dreadlocks or...
Well, no, it's a bit fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
Or that green hair, Eagle.
I know. Well, it's weird as fuck because, I mean, in the early punk days, we used to get beaten fuck for looking for beer punks because all ladies. Yeah. Now I get little old ladies in the shop. I was like, oh, I like your hair. Can I touch it?
I'll touch you for luck.
So,
yeah, I totally get that. I actually do get a lot of old ladies saying to me, "Oh, I like the way you're dressed," and I think that's so nice. And I'll say, "Oh, yes, you look great too," seeing as
yeah.
I'm an old lady now as well, so I can say those sort of things. And I think when you're older, you can. People don't do that enough, I think, particularly in London, where I live now. Speak in the street, and there's this weird thing where you don't talk to each other, but I'll do it if I see someone wearing something really nice, or I'll say, "Oh, I love your dress," and I think it's good to do that. But then I suppose the counter argument is that people get scared, go, "Oh, why are you talking to me?" And that's what they like in London.
No, it's so sad, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, and I think that's where governments win, isn't it? Because we're not communicating amongst ourselves en masse.
Yeah.
Governments do divide and rule.
Yeah, because once you start speaking to other people, whatever it is you're scared about or have fears about, like the virus, like government oppression, like the prices going up, like not being able to pay for your gas, which is absolutely shocking, then you realise at least you're in the same boat as other people. It doesn't seem so scary because you're together. And I think that being apart from everyone and being isolated has been quite useful for governments to control us. Whatever you believe about why it's happened, and if it's happened or if it's real, it's still a good way of splitting people up.
Oh, totally. I mean, governments will exploit whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there are people who still believe in a coronavirus. I just think let's have further conversations with these people.
Yeah. Communication is key.
Yeah. So when's your new album out? And I'm never gonna be able to bloody pronounce it. When is it out? Officially out?
Chiasmata. It's out a week today on Excretia Recordings, and you can pre-order it now from the website, which is punkvert.tv, and then you can either do /anarchistwood, obviously there's anarchistwood there, so you can see, and find us there, or if you just go punkvert.tv /music, then you will see all the huge list of music that's available from Excretia Recordings on our website, and that includes Old Ernie, who's our guitarist. If I can find a nice picture of him there being Jesus, you can see him. He's also got an amazing band called Old Ernie,
Okay.
And he's just put out another album called Chrysalis Like Me, which you should get. Oh, and by the way, the photographs are taken by Barry Goddard, who is a photographer who's absolutely superb. There's Scarlett Carson, our drummer, scary clown drummer, as Badger calls him, the most scary drummer in the world.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I think this picture of Chris, our guitarist, although she's on maternity leave at the moment, Chris Stazica, was possibly taken by my daughter Tansy in a toilet. And that's when we did a gig together last April, an online one, and she was pregnant there, so she was the Virgin Mary.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's out 10th of March, and you can get it, pre-order it now. Sales are going well.
Brilliant.
And we're gonna have a launch party in a week as well, private launch party, because it's you can't be in too many people there because it's in a church.
Great
so
stuff.
we accept all comers, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Punk Homeless started in a church.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And you can also see on there, we've got a whole row of people there who contributed to getting this album off the ground and helping us pay for it. So they've loaned us money and also sang on one of the tracks. And yeah, so you can see a ton of them there from all over the world. And there's actually Candy there filming.
Excellent.
And, yeah, looking very strange. So there's a ton of people there. There's Sobriety Twist there who also sang on it. And on the other side, there's also a bunch You can see
Yeah,
Sexton Ming
excellent.
there. You might recognise Sexton Ming.
Yeah.
And Pete Fender, who played piano on the choir track.
Brilliant, nice one.
And Mark Charles, who's just had a single out that is also, you can get on the website. They're called Perfect C, not you, but hashtag NTS. I don't know if I can say that word. And there's Glenn, who plays baritone horn with us. He's also in a band called Brunk that you might have heard of. And there's Luca, my lovely son. And also there's Lydia, who's also in Brunk, who played trombone. And Stanley Bad, who plays, again, violin, bagpipe, and recorder, I believe. So, yeah, there's a ton of different people who were involved in the making of the album, which is lovely. And Mark Ray, who I mustn't forget Mark Ray, who's just done us a fabulous review in Louder Than War yesterday. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that.
Excellent. Oh, I'll be checking that out review.
Yes.
And I look forward to listening to the album.
And on the inside.
Beautiful.
Beautiful pink.
Yeah.
And no clowns. That was Scarlett, who chose the colour. Our lovely drummer.
I do love colour vinyl.
It's very sexy.
Years and years ago, I managed to pick myself up a second-hand Bang & Olufsen turntable.
Lovely.
Well, it was great, but it didn't recognise coloured vinyl.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The laser would see straight through the vinyl if it was coloured.
Of course, yeah.
I used to have to put a black album underneath the album I was playing.
Yeah.
Which wasn't ideal. So, but
anyway,
that's a sort of trivial little fact. One of the reasons I thought it'd be great to have you on here, not only just the album coming out, was your support for Punk for Homeless and the girls over in Hope Orphanage.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything to the girls while we're here?
I'd like to say hello, all the girls. Hello, Hannah. Particularly, I know you're working so incredibly hard. And I think what you're doing over there is amazing. I'm sure you've heard that before, but over here we complain about all sorts of things, and particularly in Britain we complain about the weather because we don't really have a lot to complain about. But you are doing such amazing work raising your big family, with looking after each other, again, mutualism, and your education. I'm really pleased that, being a teacher myself and being involved in science and maths and English, it's great to see you progressing and getting your awards, and also your performance work. It's wonderful, and I must say, I have appropriated some of your makeup for some of our gigs.
Brilliant.
Great dots. I did a reverse because the girls quite often have the white dots around their eyes, and I did one where I had black dots around my eyes. So yeah, thank you for the tips. Keep sending them along. And also to Uncle Rashid, a big hello to you and family, Abdul and your mum, for all that you're doing for the girls.
I'm so proud of them, you know, when you see them sort of getting head girl and stuff. And
yeah, and so they should.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's determined, and all I needed was that bit of support from us. And yeah, and it's all about, for me, punk has always been that mutualism, you know, that we help one another. So it's all great, I think.
Yeah, Krapotkin would be very proud of us all.
He would indeed. Right, well, much love, Emma. Funk or Frank, or as the
you can call me what you like.
Or as the girls call your mother, Frank. Which I
know, that's so sweet. I love that. Mother Frank saying, giving her love for everyone out in Sierra Leone, and also everyone up in Eagle Land. And to Mrs. Eagle, how is Joy?
She's shouting higher.
Hiya, hiya.
So so thanks everybody for tuning in, and you check out the new Anarchistwood album. I'm never fucking going to be able to pronounce. It's that one. So take care.
Chiasmata. Bye.
Bye. Much love. Take care. Bye now.